The title of the book I'll be discussing today is Schlump, a realistic fiction World War I novel by Hans Herbert Grimm. And here's the cover of the book. Okay, so this tale is about a 17-year-old boy who's kind of rebellious, nicknamed Schlump, but actually named Emil, who wanted to join the war for his country, Germany, in 1915. His mom is very scared of the idea of her son joining the war, but Schlump wants to join to feel like a hero. So he does without getting her full consent. He first is stationed in a French village called La Fronde, and here he lives a very small town lifestyle. He meets many other girls, goes to the pubs, and overall has a good, relaxing time. This all changed after a few months, though, when Schlump was placed on the front lines, still in France. He got to experience trench warfare, and he hated it. But after all, who would like it? He ate 1 meal per day, got 2 hours of sleep at a time, and always seemed to be cold and dirty. He sustained 2 injuries severe enough to send him to the hospital during his experience in the trenches. The second of the 2 injuries required Schlump to go home and rehab his shoulder, so he reunited with his grateful mom for a little bit. He also met a girl named Johanna back in Germany. Eventually, after this injury is healed, though, Schlump has to go back to the trenches. What happens when the war ends on November 11th, 1918, though? Read the book to find out. The book is rooted in a variety of historical context. Schlump is deployed in France and has to fight in the trenches because of Germany's Schlieffen Plan right when the war started. This plan obviously did not work because France put up too much resistance and the Russians mobilized on the Eastern Front too quickly, causing the Germans to dig trenches in France to get ready for 4 years of conflict. Schlump takes a train when he gets deployed to France and when he goes back to Germany for his second injury. The mass usage of railways for transportation was caused by industrialization, which was in full swing in non-British Europe by the mid-1800s. By World War I, France and Germany were both quite industrialized, so they had railways leading to all the major towns and cities. The anti-war message of this book can be better understood when you consider when the book was written, 1928. 1928 was obviously the interwar years, as we know, and the Nazi Party in Germany was just starting to get votes in the Reichstag at this time. Also, the Great Depression was rapidly approaching. Hans Herbert Grimm seemed to detect the possibility of the Second World War, and he wanted to warn against this by writing this graphic story of World War I's horrors. Okay, so now here's an essential passage I thought was interesting. So, Schlump in this thing is talking to a trumpeter who he just kind of met in the trenches. So, to cut the story short, he continued, "She was kind to me too. I only had 8 days leave, and these soon came to an end. I spoke to her father. It all felt like a dream. And on the day before I left, we had a war wedding. Her father rented a small attic apartment. I can't remember who was at the ceremony. I think it was our parents. I could only see her. They were all gone. The following day, I had to return to the front." This really shows the anti-war essence of the book because of how it is discussing a new marriage of a man who Schlump had a conversation with during the war. Grimm is trying to make the man seem innocent and victimized by war because it's making him leave his new wife. And now for my opinion on the book. I overall liked the book because it gave a nice comprehensive picture of what fighting in World War I was truly like for a typical 17-year-old. It was very realistic too. You could almost feel the cold discomfort, dirtiness that Schlump felt when reading the story at times. And anyone who liked All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque, which we read earlier this year, would definitely like this book too, I believe. Paul and Schlump are quite similar characters coming into the war as newbies in terms of military experience. To see if the conclusions are similar, though, you would have to read Schlump, of course. Both Schlump and Paul go through similar experiences too while fighting. I believe this book is just as good as All Quiet on the Western Front, but it kind of got blocked out of the book market by Remarque's novel a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening.